British Foreign Minister David Cameron hypocritically discussed Iran's retaliatory attack against Israel, which came as a response to the latter's airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Syria. A little over 2 weeks ago, Israel carried out a devastating airstrike on the Iranian consulate in Syria, killing several Iranian advisors, among others. A Sky News reporter asked Cameron about Iran's response, which he highly criticized despite Iran acting in accordance with international law.
What about Iran's frustration at part of its sovereign territory being flattened?
Well, I would argue there is a massive degree of difference between what Israel did in Damascus and, as I said, 301 weapons being launched by the state of Iran at the state of Israel. For the first time, a state-on-state attack. 101 ballistic missiles, 36 cruise missiles, 185 drones. That is a degree of difference. Yeah. And I think a reckless and dangerous thing for Iran to have done. And I think the whole world can see all these countries that have somehow wondered, well, what is the true nature of Iran? It's there in black and white.
Ironically enough, after admitting that the UK would take very strong action were a hostile state to flatten one of its consulates, he continued to call Iran's response reckless and dangerous, while criticizing Iran's true nature.
What would Britain do if a hostile nation flattened one of our consulates?
Well, we would take the very strong action.
And Iran would say that that's what they did?
Well, what they did, as I said, was a massive attack.
So they were right to respond, but they overreacted, is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that the attack they carried out was on a very large scale, much bigger than people accepted.
They have a right to respond?
Well, countries have a right to respond when they feel they've suffered an aggression. Of course they do, but look at the scale of that response.
The scale of Iran's attack on Israel was apparently too massive. When a country's consulate is flattened, Cameron believed that the country should not send missiles and drones toward it. But wasn't it the UK who participated in illegal attacks on Yemen, which didn't even launch attacks on the UK? Didn't Cameron just say that the UK would take very strong action? Didn't Iran specifically opt to target the same military facilities that launched the attacks on its consulate, attempting to avoid non-military targets? Maybe it's because the UK is more accustomed to the Western way of doing things. Bombing civilians until thousands of bodies pile up, like they did in Iraq, Yemen, Afghanistan, to name a few. It seems that only certain countries have the right to respond to aggression on their sovereign territory, and on whichever scale they deem appropriate. For real though, let's take a second to imagine a scenario where a UK consulate was bombed by another country. How would they have reacted? Would they have been as merciful as Iran was?